All right. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by the Manufacturing E-commerce Success Series with Exit Your Way and B2B Tale for Damon and Curt. Today, we've got Greg Mischio. Curt, go ahead and take it from here.
Well, Damon, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. So, guys, Damon is the host with the most, Exit Your Way in Seattle. He is a rock star. God bless you, Damon. What a great year it's been. So, my name's Curt Anderson. Thank you for joining us. If we were live, we would be handing out business cards, shaking hands, high-fiving. Please drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat box.
In the chat, yep.
We are here live on LinkedIn Live. We are on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and of course here in the platform on Remo. So let's get to our program. It is my honor. It is a privilege to introduce our guest today, Greg Mischio from the great state of Wisconsin. He is from Madison, and he is the founder and owner of Windbound. Now, Windbound, he is a marketer expert for manufacturers. And today, he's just going to blow our minds. He has this great, incredible concept. It's called the digital twin. Greg, thank you for taking time to join us today, and welcome to our program.
Thanks, Curt. Thanks, Damon. I appreciate you inviting me in here.
Absolutely. So I want to jump right in. So Greg, and Damon, here's a little thing. I do have to admit, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. I have a little bit, Greg and I, we engaged months ago. He does incredible content. I read one of his articles on Industrial Sage. We hit it off, a lot in common. And I'm talking to him. And when on 2020, you're looking at people on Zoom, you're like, I wonder how old this person is. I'm like, he's probably 10 years younger than me. I'm looking at his LinkedIn profile. We're the exact same age. So I have a little bit of hair envy right now. He just looks so young, Greg. It's just, way to go. So anyway. 1991, you graduate from University of Wisconsin. Is that correct? So you are a Badger. I was going to have the Wisconsin theme song, fight song going today.
But Wisconsin.
You left Wisconsin. You jumped into Madison, the Transit Authority. Can you talk about that for a second? What I want to dig right into is how did you get into marketing for manufacturers? But I just like to start there on your early steps of your journey. And then how did you get into marketing for manufacturers?
Dear Lord, I mean, that is a long time ago. And I interned there. So I was going to school at UW-Madison. So I'm not exactly sure what happened during that time.
It's all blur.
Accurate. What happened? This is Madison we're talking about. So I'm not quite sure. But I was interested in copywriting. And my friend said, hey, Madison Metro is looking for some marketing help and they need a writer. And I'm like, the bus? So I went over there and I started writing ads and stuff. And then I got into the marketing end of it. So, it was trying to balance working for the city. So you're working with city workers and then you're working with Teamsters driving the buses. So it was an interesting workforce to have to deal with. So I kind of learned how to play through that.
Right. So, and the nice thing is I kid around. So I do these webinars and when we get to blogging, I'm like, man, I know, if we all wanted a blog, we would have gone to journalism school. And that's why you're such a blessing for manufacturers. You did go to journalism school. So you are an expert in copywriting. You have a passion for it. You are great at it. Talk a little bit about, so when making that transition from the authority, the transportation authority into manufacturing, and as you became a copywriter, did you have that aha moment, say like in early 2000s, when you're like, hey man, that my copywriting ties in well with SEO, and then we want to dig right into those SEO strategies. Did you have like that aha moment of like, hey, this is really working for me? Yeah,
absolutely not. I was a copywriter. And I was like the Mad Men kind of copywriter, like I went to journalism school, but I had no interest in the discipline of journalism. Right. I was advertising emphasis. I'm like, wow, I can bull BS and get paid for it and not have to, have any attribution. This is great.
Right.
So I was concepting, I was coming up with headlines and concepts like that. And I went advertising and I went to, worked in an ad agency, internal communications places. And then I started freelancing, wisely went freelance right as the Great Recession kicked in, which shows you my business acumen. But the one thing that was great about it is like, that's when the internet was, the internet really was kind of coming into its infancy around 2000, but like the marketers hadn't quite sorted out how it was all going to really work. And from a writer's perspective, I didn't know content wasn't even a big thing there. But then I started to, learn about HubSpot, and I'm like, started writing some content for a couple of clients. I'm like, I can do this. And all of a sudden I started getting traffic to their website, like a lot of traffic.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, and there was no SEO involved at all. I was just, I was writing like 3 blog posts a week, just cranking this stuff out. And we started getting a ton of ranking. I'm like, oh, you mean, so if I actually try and optimize this, it'll get better? And it did. So that's kind of how I got into that. Now do you want to get into how the manufacturing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so real quick. So then, Windbound, I started Windbound in 2014, and full disclosure, we work with a variety of different clients, mainly in the B2B. We've always had a manufacturing client. I'll talk about Delta Modtech here a little bit, but as we got, we were like, well, I like this concept. I like what we're doing at Windbound. Let's grow it. We got a niche. Like we're telling our customers to niche, and we're not niched. And so we really started to focus over the last couple of years on manufacturing. So like Curt, you live and breathe manufacturing. I'm reading your book right now, and it's fantastic. And it comes from your inherent understanding of manufacturing. And so we're not quite at your knowledge level in terms of manufacturing and stuff like that. But we're kind of bringing the marketing side of it to the manufacturing realm, and learning a lot in the process. But so it was leveraging what we had with Delta Modtech, who we've been working with for years, and that's where we came up with the digital twin model, which is really what I think applies to manufacturing.
And that's what everybody's dying to hear, Greg. And so, man, when you and I talked, and I think, as a matter of fact, I read one of your articles about the digital twin. Then I'm like, man, we got to talk about it. We had an incredible conversation. You were on Manufacturing Out Loud podcast, our dear friends Allison DeFord and Ray Zagato, and you just crushed it on that podcast. I encourage anybody to go back and check out that podcast. But let's dig right in, because like my buddy Mark Hill is on the call today, and we're talking about, like, when you hear that digital twin, there's you hear in AI or IoT or engineering, you really have done a brilliant job of really simplifying it for that manufacturer that might be struggling with their marketing concept, especially this year, 2020, no trade shows, sales reps can't go on the road. Let's dig right into that. Let's talk about your digital twin concept for manufacturers.
Okay. This is us. This is what we do. Provide a lot of digital marketing for small manufacturing marketing teams. Okay, let's get to the digital twin. So what is a digital twin? So a digital twin in manufacturing, I think it was on Chris Lukey's he had a happy hour, manufacturing happy hour, and they had someone was talking about the digital twin. So it's a digital representation of a product or manufacturing process. And you can prototype off of it. You can try materials, anything like that. And when I heard that, I was like, light bulb, because there's eternal challenges faced by manufacturers. You have complex products. You have a difficult, long buying process. You have a variety of different audiences you are trying to reach. And then you also have the digital issue, which is now 70% of the prospecting is taken from your customers is taking place online. So what has traditionally been a sales-driven organization, manufacturing, you need to get yourself online. And the way to do that is to create content that acts as the digital twin of your sales team.
Hey, Greg, could you repeat that one more time? 70% what? I didn't hear you loud enough.
I said 70% roughly of the prospecting by your customers is taking place online.
Isn't that crazy? That's mind blowing. It really is.
Now hold on a second, Curt. Just don't get too excited. All right. Because that doesn't mean the salesperson goes away. We just don't we don't know when they're going to be talking to the salesperson, right? It could be at any point in the customer journey. The idea of the digital twin is when they're not talking to the salesperson, when they're up at like 11:30 at night, really can't shake this idea about this great, product you have, they're looking at you online. And like you said in your book, you want to be there and ready to sell at any point any point during the day. Yep. Your website should be ready to sell.
That's exactly right. I'm like, how can you help that ideal customer? I call them soulmates. How can you help that soulmate make a buying decision on Friday night at midnight without having to wait for you to open up the door on Monday morning? Yep. And like our dear friend, Andrew Deutsch, he does a great job. We've been talking about configurators, trying to help people, speed up that quoting process. And of course, with e-commerce. So let's keep digging deeper here.
Okay. So then, I heard this concept and I'm starting to think about what do salespeople always say? People only do business with you if they know you, they like you, and they trust you. Well, holy cow, that lines right up with the content marketing.
Right.
And creating content at the top of the funnel, like we always do, that's informational, getting people to know you. So you create content that addresses their problems. Then people so they're aware of you. And then they start to like you once you start to put specific tools out there to solve their problems. So I'll give you an example, kind of along the line of Andrew's configurator solution. And then willing to trust you. This is the kind of content you want to create. They know you, they like you. What's going to push them over the edge to the buying, to buying the product. Mm-hmm. So just like, here's an example. Answer problems in the know you stage. Okay. So this, for example, this post, there was some key, by the way, this know you, like you, trust you, it all lines up with your keyword research too for SEO. Yep. So long tail is top of the funnel, and it's questions people ask. So people are like, should I use a rotary die versus a laser die? And so we wrote a post around that and just answered the question, and there's where as well as you're trying to answer these questions, the beauty is with creating the digital twin, just by virtue of you following this model, you got to go talk to your salespeople, marketers. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really on us as marketers to get out and interact with our salespeople and really learn what it is about the product and what the customers are saying and pull their expertise into it. There's sales and marketing have always traditionally been finger pointers, Mm-hmm. The leads aren't good enough. You're not closing the leads, all that stuff. If we can bring these two parties together just by virtue of trying to follow this model, mm-hmm. you're going to create something special that both teams own. And so that's kind of the idea behind the digital twin as well. So, we start out with this top of funnel piece of content. And I want to back up for just a second and go through this slide because we mentioned SEO.
Yeah.
Somebody might say, why are we just answering, it makes sense, like maybe some top of funnel content. And why do we do that? Like we've actually put some some content out there that isn't directed to the sale. It's a little more higher level. And in fact, a lot of times blog visitors don't convert into sales. And why do they do that? And it's because you're at that know you stage. You're just trying to meet people and, get your name out there. Curt and Damon right now, this is a know you kind of production, right? They're trying to get everybody to know about Curt and Damon. But it also ties into SEO. So I'm just going to go through this real quick about how SEO works. And I apologize if I'm insulting anybody's intelligence here, but there's two different types of content out there. There's a blog page with informational content, and there's a buying page or your website pages, and those are transactional. Okay, so they both have keywords. Google sees those keywords, and that indicates relevance. All right, so they're like, okay, yeah, that's a relevant page, but that's not what they're going to rank you for. once you start to put out informational content, other collaborators, Curt might see my blog post and he likes a quote or he likes some data that I've shared. If he likes it, he's going to link back to it. Now, people are linking to it. That indicates authority. And when Google sees relevance and authority, that's when you rank number one. So this top of funnel content not only gets people to know you, but it also serves an SEO purpose in that it helps you build your authority. And those transaction pages, those buying pages, that's what helps get them to rank.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly, and that's what Google's looking for is, you hear the catchphrase now, eats. Google's looking for good eats. It's expertise, authority, and trust. And it's everything that you're talking about. And I know, Greg, you have some great case studies where you're crushing it. We've talked about different clients of yours, first page rankings, number one ranking. And I think this slide is just phenomenal. So anybody, I know Steve Melito's on with us today, and my buddy Mark Hill. We've been talking this week about capturing this slide. Just really summarizes it. It's just a great, simple way to look at it.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, and it's a fundamental. And I like to try and bring it out when you're talking to your management team, because I think there's a lot of it's mystifying to people. They think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with SEO. Really kind of boils down to this at the end of the day. So like you, middle of funnel tools. So this is a coding methods comparison chart that we did for Delta Modtech. Mm-hmm. It's a tool that people can use. Delta Modtech manufactures converting machinery. It's a tool that people can use, though, in the use of the machinery, and kind of moves them further down the sales funnel. So we all know what lead magnets are and things like that. And that's what these are. They're like, get people to sign up, help them understand and make better decisions. And you're helping them. So they'll start to like you. And I put that little number below that this actually using content, like we actually use this content then to advertise with. So we talk a lot about content and marketing. Like people can produce content. You got to have a method of distribution. You've got to get it out there. And so, SEO is great. That's a method of distribution. That's organic distribution. That's Google ranking you because of the factors. But, that might not be enough, and it might not get you out there soon enough. You can use your content in an advertising perspective, and it's going to be far more effective if you go to like trade publications and you just see a company with their logo and their, this is what we do. That's great. But try and use something like this. We had great goal completions advertising a useful piece of content that people could come to the site and download and use. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, case studies, mission critical here. Get those case studies out there. They are the manufacturer's form of social proof. When Curt's on his Instagram and he gets a lot of thumbs up because he's got that video of him doing that hula hoop thing. I mean, that's great. That's social proof that Curt does weird things with hula hoops, and that's fine.
Hey, that's supposed to be between us.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. Anyways, back to the point here. But the case study is your social proof, and it's what your customers are saying about you. And We've got a blog post about it. It's really important to get your customers' actual words in it. Don't go with the, hey, you write it and I'll just approve it. Interview them, get their thoughts, and get their statistics out of it too. Yeah. We wrote a case study the other day, and the client told us that we increased his sales by 32%. I think it was 32%. And I didn't even know that. Right. When in preparing for the case study, he had to reveal it. So get those numbers in your headlines, and then you can see we advertise the case studies too. Again, back to useful content, and that's what drives people. It can be an effective advertising tool. It can even work. Let's see here. Yeah. So here's some of our case studies, and again, we try and get. It was a 35% jump. Sorry. We try and get those numerics in the headlines because that makes a big difference.
Yep.
So Greg, let's talk about that for 1 second. So
Yeah.
you engage with, so again, you've made this great transition as you talk about copywriter, you're discovering like capturing some first page rankings on Google. You're the accidental SEO expert, if I can declare that. And so you engage with a new manufacturer. What do you tell, like Damon and I, we engage with a lot of say manufacturers that have a marketer on staff.
Yep.
The marketer knows what needs to be done, but it's challenging convincing president, owner, CEO. They're just so knee deep in the product and like they're in the trenches, just trying to keep their business, through 2020 or whatever fires that they're putting out. How do you either help that marketer or what do you tell that president, CEO of a manufacturing company of why this is so important? Why is this critical to help stop being the best kept secret with their manufacturing business?
I think you have to make your case via data. I mean, we can talk about the stats about, how much searching is being done online. I think you can present the case, show them what their competitors are doing and their presence online and how many visits they're getting. And I mean, just seeing the numerics of things like that can really make a difference. Seeing how many visits they're getting compared to the company you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And then you really have to show them the model that is designed to result in sales. And I think if you show them the strategy behind it, if you show them why blogging leads to inbound links, for example, which gets you domain authority, which can get you ranked, which can get people to convert into leads for your sales team. If you explain the process and how this works, then I think it sinks in with them and they understand it. There's got to be a quantitative to go with your qualitative. And I think that just saying things like, we need to be on LinkedIn is not enough. You have to have the complete strategy behind you. And that's, we put together the digital twin for the know you, like you, trust you, because it's a sales, formula that's worked for forever since you were a kid, Curt. I mean, I don't know how long ago that was.
Well, that was in the 1920s. It was a long time ago. Yeah. Right. Like Model T was just coming out, I think. So.
Model T, right. But, that showing them that strategy and giving them the data behind it and then working your way backwards. Right. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Right. Okay.
Let's see what else I got here. Okay. We actually... This is kind of interesting. We took a case study and repurposed it as a blog post and put it on a trade pub and repurposed it as an article. And first of all, we were kind of surprised that they even ran it, but they did. And not only did it work for us, it got a lot of leads, but it was the highest read post on the site. And the reason why is because these trade pubs, they want to show what their readers are doing to succeed. So if you have a case study, instead of saying like the 10 different ways to, increase your sales or, use our product better, show them how it actually results in success for people.
Right. And Greg, just real quick, just when you say the word repurpose, and if I'm new to content, elaborate on that, which is brilliant. It's just taking advantage of what?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know we've got a lot of different marketers probably on the line and, whether you're doing video or written posts, we focus on the written because we feel like that's the basis for what you can do. And it's tied in so well with the SEO, but you can repurpose it into a video, which means you can just take that base blog post, for example, write a video script off of it. You can do a presentation off of it. You can create an infographic off of it. You can do a podcast off of it. You can do a soap opera off of it, Curt. I mean, there's just limitless.
Yeah, and I have to hurry up because I got to catch Young and the Restless pretty. No, maybe I missed that. I can't remember, but no. And the thing, like, so we kid around. We call it reloving it, and it's it's almost like kidding around about I have a relationship with a brilliant engineer. She's the hardest working woman I've ever met in my life. And she always says, I'm a lazy person. She wants things efficient. She wants things simple. Why would I walk across the room when I can't have this pen right next to me? So when you have an opportunity to repurpose, it's once you put and I'll tell you, Damon and his team with Ira, they're doing an amazing job with repurposing their content, videos, transcribing it, turn into a blog post. So there's all sorts of opportunities where you feel like you're eating the elephant trying to do that content. You really don't need to. You really can simplify it. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, and Bonnie Strominger is on LinkedIn Live. She says, your content library is really important, is what she's saying, because you can constantly pull that in and out of that. So, and I think that's really important, especially if you're when you get a lot of blog posts, a lot of videos, a lot of things like that, understanding what you have becomes more and more critical. Even if you've got a posting strategy or something and you're posting 5 days a week on an account, you don't know what you did 3 months ago. If you're not keeping track of it, and some of it's evergreen. I think that's a really, we've seen it's very important to do that.
Yeah, I think that what Bonnie's talking about is a really good point, and it's a good way to kind of get your head around this content is to think of it as a library and not as a periodical. Like the New York Times is always pumping out new articles. That's what they do with today's news. What we're trying to do is build a library of all the topics that you need to cover. And, sometimes that might be it. Like we might go back. We've got our content library. There's an incredible digital marketer named Brian Dean. And on his website are 30 posts, and that's it. And he just continues to go back and refine and market them and guest blog the materials, repurpose it, get it out there, share it in different venues. And he's always driving it back. And every year that post gets better and he builds on it. So that's what that library concept is. And I think once you kind of get your head around that, then it's like, wow, that could be an amazing digital asset my company has. Is all this, and this is the line for the CFO and the CEO, then it's making money in your sleep, right? Then it's like there's people coming to your site for content that ranks or is easily found via your distribution methods, and it's always bringing leads in. Yeah.
And like Josh Curcio was showing us yesterday on talking about inbound marketing, this is all building on itself. All your articles, your blog posts, all this content and the website visits you're getting because of this, and the links that are going out, and all that, it builds upon itself. And pretty soon you're sitting here with a website that's getting thousands of views every month from audience that likes your content. And I think some people get really frustrated because it does take a while to develop that kind of traffic but as you do it, it's a compounding effect.
Yeah, I mean, from an SEO perspective, but let's also be realistic. There's a lot of manufacturers out there. Their products might not have a lot of SEO potential, and they might not get a ton of traffic, but there's a lot of great content out there that's specific to their target market. And if they can get it out into some trade pubs and make people aware of it, and even just get it in their salespeople's hands, it can do a lot of great things. So we're really, we kind of came out of the gates really strong in SEO, and it's a huge part of it, but you got to diversify your marketing approach too. So don't just make it strictly an SEO play. There's incredibly successful marketers out there who focus strictly on bottom of the funnel content, building their newsletter, and just serving up bottom of the funnel. What's the product all about? What does it do for you? And just really bringing those points to light. And, that's where this digital twin can really take off, especially if marketers are working with their salespeople. And that's our big initiative this year too, is to take this to the next level and create more of a mechanism and a structure where people can understand what does the marketing person need to talk to the salesperson about to draw out these details and these conversations.
No, I think that's brilliant. And our shout out to our dear friend Bonnie from Go Lids. She has this amazing, incredible product, Not the most exciting thing on the planet for, it's a staple. And she's turned it very sexy by crushing it on TikTok with millions and millions of views on TikTok. And so that's a lot of manufacturers like, well, I'm a custom job shop. I'm a little greasy, I'm like, man, if I'm an engineer at Boeing and I have a problem that needs to be solved today, and I can Google something and I can find one of Greg's articles, and that is like that. And I say, market your little corner, your little hole in the wall custom manufacturer like you're a 5-star resort. Because if I am that engineer and I stumble and I see that you have a piece of machinery, you have a proprietary process that's going to bail me out today, man, you're the greatest thing I've ever seen. And that's the challenge, is that the manufacturers, they're so phenomenal in making things. They have a challenge of how do I deliver that message? That's where we need the experts, like yourself, Greg, and look at Bonnie, what Bonnie's doing. Isn't that awesome? She just takes out her phone and just whips out a video. It doesn't need to be that complicated.
And I think kudos to you too for the market your facility like it's a 5-star resort. In your book, Curt. And by the way, if you're on the line and you want to read a fantastic book on manufacturing, check out Curt's book. I mean, it is really well done. And I put a note out there. I'm going to put out a blog post on the 2020 best books. There it is.
Thanks, Damon. Love you, brother.
The idea of manufacturing or marketing your facility like it's a 5-star resort, I think that's kind of like, what would your salesperson do? What would the digital twin, he's going to take the client to the company. He is going to give them, to the facility. He's going to give them a tour. So what can you do to bring that online? There's great people like Jeff Long are making incredible videos on video tours of the facility.
Right. And that's where I fell in love with your digital twin concept is, again, there are no trade shows. Sales reps for the most part are grounded. Now, and we were word of mouth for decades, or, we went to the same trade show every year. And that was our legacy. That's how we built up our business. We'd go out and drum up some orders. Well, now, exactly what you're saying, now to create that digital twin of, if somebody came into my facility, I'm going to introduce them to my rockstar engineer. I'm going to show them this lathe machine that I have, or whatever the process that I'm crushing it at. We need to bring it online. Like in that 70% on the prospecting, dude, that's just, everybody that's listening, let that sink in, just think about us as consumers. Last time you bought a car, or kids going to college, or, even a tiny purchase for the holiday season. We're doing so much exhaustive research online, looking things up on Amazon. We know what we want. We have the information now as consumers. Our B2B buyers are doing the exact same thing. And the nice thing is with that digital twin concept, it's, the sales rep, you're doing them a favor, Greg. Like, you were talking, when you and I were talking, it's like, let the sales rep, let your website do your customer service. Let your sales rep be the rockstar sales rep. It's almost, you're doing them a favor, right?
Oh, yeah. And they get to do what they like to do. And that's build relationships, because people have learned about you and those kind of things. And the salespeople then can build relationships, the one-on-one personal relationships. They're not out there prospecting there as much. They're not doing that. They're really building relationships. And what do salespeople like to do? They like to talk with people about what, the products or services.
Let me give you a little analogy of binocular vision. So binocular vision, you've got the left eye and the right eye. All right. Just imagine the salesperson, it's the right eye, and your marketing is the left eye. On their own, they see two different things. When those things come together, you have a 3D object. You have an object that's a 1 + 1 = 3. It's got this incredible depth to it. It takes on a whole new, aura, and you've created an incredible new thing. So, if your salesperson goes in and says, this can improve your productivity by, 23%, and then the person goes back and looks online and has that content that backs that up and shows all the details behind how they came up with that number, that's at 1 + 1 = 3. And that's where you get that, 3D effect.
That is so good, dude. That is so good. I don't know if if we have any questions. I know we're running. This is just such a killer conversation. We're a little over time, Greg. Kind of wrap up. To the CEOs, to the presidents of a company that are, 2020 has not been, a fun year for many small business owners, entrepreneurs out there, and they're deciding, they're trying to recover from no trade shows, so on and so forth. They want to kick the tires, a limited marketing budget. What advice do you have for that business owner, entrepreneur? How could they get into a content marketing strategy? Kind of, how would they transition in? What's your advice to them?
I think what we usually say, well, first of all, I've got just a couple tools up there on the screen. Our digital twin marketing manufacturing guide. It's a series of website pages. You can go through that and just get the gist of the whole thing. In the interactive content conversion scorecard, we just put that out. You can use that. It's a PDF that will tally up the scores on your site as you go through and evaluate. And you can just text digital twin to that number and get the links to both of those.
Okay.
But I think that the first place I would start is at the point of sale. I mean, start looking at those customers. What have you done well? What can you talk about? What are your case studies like? And start building those and kind of work your way backwards and get the sales and marketing team together and figure out what can we do and build up our assets and start small, but make sure you're going to get something at each stage. Know you, like you, trust you. And the other thing is niche. I would niche. And like you talk about, Curt, with eCommerce, start out small, start out with a specific product. So I had that up on the screen. It was actually for a printer who had a very specific product. The big increase we got in sales for him, he's not getting tons of traffic on general terms to his site. He's getting a lot of traffic for that specific product that he sells. And that is then going to fuel the rest of what he does. You can just build on it. So you got to hit Normandy, establish your beachhead, and then bring the rest of the troops in.
There you go.
Damon, you ready? We got to praise Greg on that one, man. That was, dude, that dropped the mic. That was so, folks. Let's and I'm sorry we're going over time, but let's just recap what Greg just said. Niche down. So in manufacturing world, you think about folks. We talk about this all the time. I bend metal. I cut steel. I 3D print something. I make circuit boards. And from, we just go online and think, okay, well, I'm just going to come up on search. I'll be found, and I'm going to bend metal for somebody else. I cut steel for somebody else. Because I can do it for anybody. Well, the challenge is when you take that online approach, it's like we're trying to be everything to everybody. We become nothing to no one from an online standpoint. And with what Greg's saying right now, dude, brilliant advice. Strongly encourage anybody out there trying to attack a keyword strategy, niche down, because it's a more fruitful experience for the buyer. I think, Greg, we were talking about, and I use like the pink running shoes with purple shoelaces example. If we're trying to target shoes, it's too broad. And if we were selling pink running shoes with purple shoelaces, trying to go after that keyword shoes is too broad. But boy, if we target that keyword purple running shoes with pink shoelaces, and I have a teenage daughter, she's out there looking for purple, running shoes with pink shoelaces, whatever I just said, that's a better fit for the buyer. So Greg, that was phenomenal. That was great advice. Love it. Thank you. Great way. The best way to get a hold of you, we've got Greg Mischio at Windbound. Connect with Greg on LinkedIn. We're going to go back to the tables. Folks here on Remo, if you're new, we're going to go back to the tables, and we have an opportunity to network with each other. You have an opportunity to talk with Greg. Greg, any parting thoughts? Anything that we didn't cover today on the digital twin?
No.
No, folks, Greg, I can't encourage you enough. Please connect with Greg Mischio. He is absolutely phenomenal. He's become a dear friend. He's one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. So, Greg, both Dave and I, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. We're going to get back to the tables, and thank you guys for joining us. Have a phenomenal weekend. Greg, thank you.
You bet. See you.
You bet. All right. We're going to drop off LinkedIn and Periscope and Facebook right now, but thanks for joining us there and going back to the tables.
Greg, thank you, dude.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, man.